Hello, everybody. I hope you're doing well out there. Hope you're feeling good. Today, we are going to explore something known as the Dunning-Kruger Effect, and we're going to be taking a deeper look into it and exploring some examples of it and dissecting the Dunning-Kruger Effect, looking at it from a number of angles. So, first, let's start off with what is the Dunning-Kruger Effect? So, the Dunning-Kruger effect, as per this Wikipedia article here, is a cognitive bias in which people with limited confidence in a particular domain overestimate their abilities. It was first described by the psychologists David Dunning and Justin Kruger in 1999. In my opinion, this is probably a reaction to the internet boom. Being as so much information was now suddenly available to the general public, it made people aware of how little they were aware of. And so David Dunning and Justin Kruger conducted their study among the students, as you can find on the same wiki page seen earlier, which led them to their conclusions and coining the effect in history for the future to come. And although the Dunning-Kruger effect wasn't officially named until 1999, it's safe to assume this phenomenon has been impeding on entire populations far into the ancient world. So let's have a little look at this highlighted section from the beginning of the wiki article here. The Dunning-Kruger effect is often misunderstood as a claim about general overconfidence of people with low intelligence instead of specific overconfidence of people unskilled at a particular task. And I just wanted to extend on that point a little bit because I think it stretches beyond just tasks. It also extends, into specific realms of knowledge regarding particular topics and bodies of research. Let's use World War II for an example. Let's say there's a guy whose grandpa saw a lot of combat in World War II and shared a lot of these horrific stories with him when he was a young man. And as a result, this guy grows up spending all of his time reading about and researching all of the different aspects of World War II. And then let's say there's this other guy whose grandpa was a farmer that never served in the military. And, maybe he saw a couple documentaries about World War II on the History Channel once. Well, let's just say these two guys end up having a conversation about World War II at the bar. And the second guy, whose grandpa was a farmer, starts telling the first guy that he is an idiot and has no idea what he's talking about. This is essentially the Dunning-Kruger effect. So let's look at this beautiful chart here that I found on the internet to help us get a better visual understanding of the Dunning-Kruger effect. So as we can see there on the left-hand side, we start at low, know nothing, right? You could consider this, I guess, the point where you're not even aware that a topic exists even, or have done absolutely zero research and have seen nothing regarding the topic, or have never worked a day in the trade or even heard about the trade even necessarily. So now we're going to come up here to the peak of Mount Stupid, as we can see. And, here is where maybe you had, your first couple weeks of training, or even, the first couple months at a new job. Or, maybe you saw a couple of those World War II documentaries from the History Channel. This is where a person will generally think they are now an expert at said task or such topic. They know it all. And that's where there are two courses of action available now to the individual. So there's option one: remain at the peak of Mount Stupid and stay convinced that you're an expert, which can generally lead to mistakes being made in one's life. It can also lead to spreading incorrect information or not having the capacity to receive correct information. Or in some cases, even injuries or death potentially, depending on the trade or topic, of course. And then there's option two: fall into the valley of despair, where true learning can actually take place. And you can start to recognize all the complexities and details a particular topic might include, or even the specific responsibilities and intricacies involved in a particular trade or field of occupation. and all the hard work that may entail going forward. A lot of learning and self-reflection happens here in the Valley of Despair. This is where you recognize that maybe those couple documentaries you saw on the History Channel or what you remember being taught about it in high school may have not been sufficient in providing you with a rich enough understanding of World War II as a whole. And you start to see how little you actually knew regarding it at the peak of Mount Stupid, now from the perspective of the Valley of Despair. It can be overwhelming to the point of getting a sense that you might not ever be able to truly, fully understand it. But if you do think you can understand it, then there is hope yet. Because once you've had this revelation that there's a lot more to it than you originally thought, it pushes you to learn more, gently up the slope of enlightenment. And what this might look like is reading an eclectic range of books from a number of different authors with varying opinions and theories and overlapping facts, dates, figures, etc., or watching a large variety of documentaries and videos online, or even reading actual newspaper articles from that time period. This can sometimes lead to some dark corners of research that are not as widely recognized or discussed in mainstream sources such as the news or the History Channel. And although the darkness and despair can be uncomfortable or even difficult to digest, you are forced to continue your journey beyond the slope. And as you continue learning more and more, fleshing out the footnotes and inspecting the indexes, contemplating the contents, and appreciating the appendixes, you start to see the whole picture with a greater scope of clarity. You're reaching the plateau of sustainability, as we can see here on the right-hand side of the chart. And so, it puts you in a much higher, elevated place that serves as a true foundation for wisdom, and you can now clearly see all the confusion and pitfalls involved in the Valley of Despair. And you can describe all the hard work involved with the experience to back it. But most importantly, you can now look back at your former self standing at the peak of Mount Stupid and shout, "Hey, idiot, I was wrong," before continuing along on the roads of research. So that's it in a nutshell. Basically, you're incapable of being aware of your own incompetence. It's a beautiful system, really, the process of learning things about stuff. So, now that we have taken a brief look at what the Dunning-Kruger Effect is, and the Dunning-Krugerian journey along the curve of wisdom, let us take a look at who the effect is affecting.